And I never would have thought that I would have been wearing this uniform. The jersey of the best team in the world for 34 years. Can you believe that? Now, this week, as part of Training and Doctrine Command's directed mission by General Funk, our commanding general, I have been conducting hometown recruiting in my hometown in eastern North Carolina. Does anybody know where Ahoskie, North Carolina is? No. Okay. So this is the slide I used at my high school yesterday. And I had not been back to my high school in 36 years when I left high school to come to NC State. I had not been back there in 36 years. I was, that's my high school picture, right? Holy cow, look at that ugly mug, right? This was my band director, Miss Marcia Smithwick. I played trumpet all 4 years in high school because I was a little too small to play football. And I was first chair trumpet in our high school. And 1 year I was first chair trumpet in the state of North Carolina. And the next year I was third chair trumpet. Anybody in the band in here? Okay, anybody play trumpet? Okay. I was first chair in my high school, third in the state back in 1985, 84, 85. My band director came to see me yesterday, and I had not seen her in 36 years. Holy cow. She found out I was coming back to the high school. So she came to see me. You can see kind of certificate, first trumpet there thing, you know. But that's me and my wife and my puppy Bailey. My wife and I in February have been married 30 years. We met here at NC State. Although we grew up 8 miles apart, we went to 2 different county high schools. So we didn't meet until we came to NC State, 2.5 hours away from my hometown in Allander, North Carolina. Allander, North Carolina has 1 stoplight. 1. Anybody from a town that has only 1 stoplight or no stoplights? Okay, so y'all from bigger towns than what I grew up in. When I grew up in my town of Allander, there was about 3,000 people that lived in the town. I'm going to see my parents tonight who are still living, and there's less than 800 people that live in the town now. The economic downturn in 2008 really hit the town pretty hard. Lots of businesses were boarded up, and it's kind of on life support right now. But 32 years later, I'm still wearing a uniform. It all started for me right here at NC State University. I had no clue what I was going to do after high school. How many seniors in here? Okay, juniors? Okay, sophomores? Freshmen? How many of you have a plan of what you want to do after high school? Okay, almost 60, 70%. That's good. Okay. When I talked to a couple of high schools, my sergeant major was with me on Tuesday and Wednesday. She flew back to Huachuca this morning. We went to Currituck High School, which is near the Outer Banks. Anybody know where Currituck is? Okay, good. Some head nods there. And then Bertie High School was my high school yesterday. Over half of the kids, juniors and seniors, in those 2 high schools had no idea what they wanted to do after high school. And as my sergeant major said in her story, she was on a teaching scholarship in North Carolina, full ride to college to be a teacher in North Carolina. She went to her first semester of classes at UNC Wilmington. After the first semester, she actually had a baby before she started college. She had a baby in high school when she graduated. She went to her first semester of college with her child. And after the first semester, she walked to a strategically located recruiting station outside the campus and walked in and said, I need a job. And now she is a command sergeant major, the highest enlisted rank that you can be in the Army. And she said she'd never looked back. And when she said she never looked back, that's what I said when I left high school in my small town of Orlando, North Carolina. I never looked back when I got to NC State. My uncles, three uncles were in the military. They talked to me about ROTC. We did not have junior ROTC in my high school. So you're fortunate to have the foundation and the fundamentals of teaching you about the military in junior ROTC. I came here to NC State. My uncles had talked to me about ROTC. So back then, instead of doing it online, registering for classes, you actually had to come to Rome's Coliseum and get in lines and sign up for classes. And I went by the ROTC booth, table, and I was like, I want to try this ROTC thing. So I signed up for MS1. And I liked it. It was about leadership. In high school, I was in the Boy Scouts. I actually earned my Eagle Scout in 1985. But ROTC was about leadership, doing things outdoors, of course, small unit tactics, etc. Similar to Boy Scouts a little bit. And I said, I actually like this stuff. It was the only class I made an A in my first semester of college. And I was like, man, I can use this ROTC thing to keep my grades up, my GPA up, right? Pretty good. I could not afford college when I started college. My Sunday school teacher in my church paid for my first year of college. Wow. And she said to me, I'm going to pay for your first year of college. All you need to do is pay me back sometime. The first thing I did when I graduated NC State, I went and paid her back for my first year of college. But after my first year of college, I didn't have to worry about college bills anymore because of this ROTC thing. They paid for me to go to school. They gave me, back then, I think it was $150 maybe a month. How much is it now, Leiden? $240. Okay, so now it's $240. I think it was $150 when I went to school. 86 to 90 when I was here. Got a little $150 a month or so. Plus I worked. And I was like, man, that's pretty good. Specialist Leiden, who was talking to you earlier, I gave her my first green to gold scholarship. She was a specialist at Huachuca when I got there in August of 2020. And I try to give out my scholarships. I get 2 every year. I get more if I want. I've been there 22 months. I've given out 1, and it's the Specialist Life. And I told her she could go to any college she wanted to. She did not have to go to NC State. But after she visited a few colleges, she chose NC State on her own. And she actually told me, hopefully I'm telling the truth of what she told me, is the reason she chose NC State was because of the ROTC program. It was better than the other colleges that she visited. And she visited Seton Hall and where else did you visit?
Seton Hall, like ECU.
ECU, yeah. So, but when I came to NC State, I didn't look back. How many countries in the world? Does anybody know? I've had one PFC tell me the number of countries in the world correctly since I've been asking this question. How many?
Okay, I think I've also 179 or something.
Okay, how many?
196.
96, you're close.
93.
Okay, it's 193. There's 2 other territories that could be considered as countries, but if you Google it, it says 193. Some says 195 if you count these 2 other little countries. Okay, 193 countries in the world. I've been to 76 countries. That's about 1/3 of the countries in the world. And I came from one stoplight in my hometown. Okay? I lived in Germany for 5 years. Of course, living in Germany for 5 years, I visited a lot of European countries. I met President Bush, H.W. Bush, Secretary Rumsfeld, of course, Secretary Esper. I briefed him as the SOCOM J2, Special Operations Command J2. I've met the Prime Minister, the 3 Prime Ministers in Iraq when I was there from 04 to 07. I stayed in Iraq for 32 months straight with General Casey, who was my boss. I met 3 Prime Ministers of Iraq, met the Prime Minister of Afghanistan twice. I was actually in Afghanistan until September of 2019 on my last deployment for 16 months as the Resolute Support J2. Got over 7 years deployed since 9/11. Each one of those stripes equals 6 months. That's over 7 years deployed since 9/11. And when I joined the military, I thought I would never deploy to combat. I missed Desert Storm right after I came in because I was in school at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, in my officer basic course. And I was like, man, I want to get to Desert Storm, and it was over before I got out of class, right? I didn't think I'd ever get to combat. I went to Bosnia twice. I went to Kosovo once on a deployment. I'm thinking all I'm doing is peacekeeping missions. And then 9/11 happened. I remember exactly where I was when 9/11 happened. Most of you weren't born yet, right? I was laying in a hotel bed in San Diego. My wife was at a conference. Her twin sister, who also graduated from NC State, along with my wife, we have lots of ties to NC State, called at 6 o'clock in the morning East Coast time or West Coast time and said, turn on the TV. Once I turned on the TV, I watched the second plane go into the second tower. That was September the 11th, 2001. On October 12th, 2001, I landed in Bagram, Afghanistan. 31 days later. And I've spent about 5 years in Afghanistan since 9/11, and I've spent 2.5 years in Iraq. Now, I missed a lot of birthdays and anniversaries and things like that, but being a part of this profession called the U.S. Army or any service, the Department of Defense, is something bigger than yourself. When you raise your right hand, you are swearing to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. The Constitution allows us and citizens of the United States to do all the things that you see them doing on TV. That's our Constitution. It allows us to protest. We allow that to happen. For our Constitution, it gives you your rights. Every army in the world wants to be like the U.S. Army. Every army wants to be like us Army. And you name it for another service. Us Navy, us Air Force, us Marine. They want to be like us. Look at what's happening right now in the Ukraine and Russia that invaded the Ukraine. I was just reading an article a couple of days ago about the Russian army and all the faults that they were having in their campaign. The number one fault is that they do not have a non-commissioned officer corps. Because the non-commissioned officer corps is the backbone of our army. There's 486,000 active duty service members in the army. There's only 430 general officers. There's only 89 two-star generals. I was lucky enough to be one of those. But I put my pants on every day just like you do. Just like you do. And the reason I'm still here is because of you. Is because of our soldiers. When I get up and run PT around Fort Huachuca and I see privates or specialists who are there for advanced individual training, that's what we do at Fort Huachuca with the Intel Center of Excellence for the Army. I have on any given day about 3,500 students there learning their profession from private all the way to colonel, because we train the Intel Corps on their mission. And I see young soldiers running PD, it gives me energy. You give me energy by being in junior ROTC, because you're making a commitment to be in this program, to learn about our service and about what we do for our nation. Now, I'm gonna stop talking a little bit so you guys and gals can ask any questions that you want to, okay? Specialists. Cadet Life knows that I will not pull any wool over your eyes. I will tell you what I know. I won't tell you what I don't know, and I won't tell you any BS. I won't blow any smoke up your fourth point of contact, okay? So, let me tell you a few things that you might want to listen to that require zero talent. So when I talk to lieutenants, I use this card right here, and it's 10 things that require zero talent. Because I'm an intel officer, right? I've been watching all of your body language. I've been reading your facial expressions, and I've been determining whether you're interested or not in what I'm saying, or whether you even want to be here. That's what I tell my lieutenants, okay? 10 things require zero talent. Number 1, being on time. Being on time requires zero brain power, right? Be on time. Number 2, your work ethic. How hard do you work? I started working when I was about this tall. I grew up in a rural town. I drove a tractor when I was 4 years old, okay? When I was like 8, 9 years old, I was cutting 10 yards in our town. And you would see me on my bicycle, pulling my lawnmower around town, cutting grass, making money, right? Then I was old enough to work in the town grocery store, bagging groceries. And we didn't get tips in for bagging groceries. We just got paid an hourly wage. But work ethic. Number 3, the effort that you put into whatever you're doing every day. Now, I'm just going to tell you what I see. I'm not saying that you are, okay? But what I've seen over the last 23 months as a commanding general of the Intel Center of Excellence in Fort Huachuca is that the soldiers that we get in the Army today are lazy. 2.5 years of COVID have made them lazy. We think young students, soldiers, all they need is their device, and they've got everything they need. Wrong answer. They need physical interaction. Behavioral health has gone out of the roof in the last 2.5 years in our service. Think about the effort that you put into whatever you're doing every day. Number 4 is your energy, the energy that you give. Number 5 is your body language, okay? How you are sitting in class one day, you know? If you're slumped down just like you don't care, what's the instructor think, right? Are you paying attention or not? Number 6, passion. What's your drive? What's your passion? Are you passionate about what you're doing? Number 7, doing a little extra. Doing a little extra. Maybe volunteering to do something. Number 8, being prepared. Being prepared for class. Being prepared for whatever you're going to go do. Number 9, being coachable. Meaning wanting to get better and taking constructive criticism. And number 10 is your attitude. Your attitude about whatever you're doing. Your attitude about life. Okay? Let me tell you, the world's a big place. You can go get it, or you can sit back and do nothing. was gonna go over some characteristics of truly inspiring leaders. And I'll just run through them pretty quick. Truly inspiring leaders. When I think of my 34-year career, I've been in command positions probably about 40% of my career. I've been in staff positions about 60% of my career. But all of those times, since I was a platoon leader as a lieutenant, I've been in a leadership position, right? Leaders create positive energy in organizations. Leaders value everyone on the team. It ain't about me. It's about the team and what we accomplished. Anybody row? Anybody know what? Anybody ever rowed before? Okay, what happens if you're in a rowboat and one person is not rowing in the right timing? What happens? Yeah, right? So if you're in a team and one person is not being a part of the team, what's that do to the team? Right? Inspiring leaders have a clear vision for the future. If you asked anybody about Hale, that's my last name, since it's not on our AGSUs, our new World War II uniforms, right? Going back in time. They would tell you that I'm a guy who gets stuff done. And normally they use another S word, right? I just get shit done. Okay, that's what I do. Get stuff done. Okay. Leaders who are inspiring, listen. You have 2 ears for a reason and you have 1 mouth. You should listen twice as much as you speak. Listen to your subordinates. Listen to your teammates. Communicate effectively. Okay? If I, as a general officer, open my mouth and every time I open my mouth, I said something different, what would my team think? What is my priority? Every time he opens his mouth, it's a different priority. No, you have to stay on message. I have 1 priority at Fort Huachuca, and that's people. I have 3 objectives: build leaders, drive change, and inform. I'm on every social media platform except TikTok. Okay? And when I came into the job, I came from Special Operation Forces. I didn't know what social media was. I didn't have a Facebook account. I didn't have Twitter. I didn't have the Gram. Okay, but now I've got all those platforms. And man, I've been tearing it up the last week out there with high schools and things like that. And we'll get a photo here before we leave. And guess what? You're all going to be on my Facebook page, my Twitter, and my Instagram, right? As I'm talking to the Carey Junior ROTC. Because you're future what? Future leaders. Future soldiers, future leaders, future sailors, airmen, or Marines. Whichever branch of service you decide to go into. Leaders are trustworthy, okay? I'm personally glad that they didn't have social media when I was growing up, okay? I probably did some things that I wouldn't want on social media today, right? I remember when NC State beat UNC in basketball one year when I was a freshman. Guess what happened? I was trampling the rose bushes in the chancellor's house, at the chancellor's yard, right here on Hillsborough. The chancellor lives on the right side of campus here, and we would rush Hillsborough Street that night, and me and some of my roommates were trampling rose bushes, and somebody caught it on a picture. Glad that picture was not electronic, right? Leaders are passionate about what they do. If I'm not passionate about what we're trying to get done as an Army, we're not going to be able to do it. I have to be invested as a leader of our Army. How about humility? I'm humble, okay? I don't walk around going, I'm a 2-star general. You should bow down and, when I walk in and stuff like that. Last thing from it, I tote my bag everywhere I go. Gas made over there on the wall. My bag's a whole lot heavier than his is too.
Correct, sir.
Leaders have a sense of purpose. A sense of purpose. And leaders actually have a sense of humor. Okay? A sense of humor. I tell you what, I'm gonna stop right there and let you ask any questions that you want to ask. Okay? Yes, sir.
How many ribbons do you have?
How many ribbons do I have? I really don't know. That's what I have, right there. I've been in 34 years. Some of them are duplicate. I think I got a couple of Bronze Stars, Legions of Merit, Defense Meritorious Service Medals, those things up there. I don't know. I know I have 14 stripes because I spent over 7 years in combat since 9/11. Okay, yes, ma'am, I'll go this way.
What separates the Army from the other branches?
Separates the Army from the other branches? That is a great question. I've had that question some over the last couple of days. Well, here's my answer. The Army has more military occupational skills than any other service. That's career paths, okay? The Army actually is the largest service, okay? With right now 486,000 on active duty, 1.1 billion in our total Army with the reserve component. Compo 2, National Guard, Compo 3, Reserve. But the Army has more career opportunities, okay, because we're the largest. The Army, okay, if you're gonna win a nation's war, you've got to put boots on the ground in Hale's opinion. The Army is the only force other than the Marines, and the Marines are gonna need a little bit of help, have to put boots on the ground to win and hold terrain. That's what the Army does. You can do a lot of great things from air power. You can do a lot of great things from naval power. The one thing I will tell you is we will never fight a war as a single service. We are a joint force. Okay, we need each other in everything we do. We just happen to be the biggest. And people actually cost more money than ships and airplanes. That's what our budget gets the most money for, is people. Okay? Because we can give a soldier a rifle, but that costs a whole lot of money. Okay? All right, I'm gonna go this way. Right here, I'll come back to you.
So what exactly made you go into intelligence?
What made me go into intelligence? Well, I had 3 uncles that were in the military. One was a retired colonel who was selected for brigadier general, but had a stroke, and so he was not promoted to brigadier general because he retired as a medical retirement. I had an uncle who was a retired first sergeant, and he was an MI NCO. And then I had an uncle who was in the Navy. And my uncle, who was the retired colonel, he was a quartermaster colonel. But he said, if I were going into the military again, I'd probably go into military intelligence because they have a lot of jobs that relate to the civilian sector if you want to work in the government, etc. And there are 18 different combat support agencies right now that make up the intel community. And you get a TS clearance, which means a lot in the outside world, civilian world, or government world. You have a TS clearance. So if I were going into the military again, I'd go into military intelligence. So I picked military intelligence right here in ROTC, and I got my first choice. I had no idea I'd get my first choice. I don't even remember what my second choice was. But I was telling my aide recently that on the day I found out I was going active duty and I got my first choice of military intelligence, I was driving home to Orlando, North Carolina, because I had drill that weekend with the National Guard, and we were convoying to Fort Bragg for our training that weekend. And I got a speeding ticket in Rich Square, North Carolina. I was going 55 and a 35. And the patrolman that stopped me was Billy Duke. I could see the 55-mile-an-hour sign before he stopped me. And I'm like, dude, the sign's right there, 55 miles an hour. You were going 55 and a 35. You hadn't got to the sign yet. I'm like, Sir, officer, I just found out today I'm going active duty and I got my first choice of military intelligence branch. I don't care. You're the local cop, right? And town cops make money by how many tickets they give out, right? The town makes money. So my grandfather, who was the mail carrier in our town, knew everybody, right? He called the district attorney, district attorney went to court with me, but I went to court, and of course, the district attorney got thrown out. So, anyway, military intelligence. All right, I'm gonna go back here, and I'm gonna come back across. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about neurodiversity. I was wondering, if you thought that the military's neurodiversity would increase anytime soon.
If the military's
Neurodiversity.
diversity,
Neurodiversity.
neurodiversity.
Like,